We Folk Number 2, Bananas for You, read by Conan Bell. It was a tale repeated over and over. The lumbering monsters known as Wee Oni would ransack Wee All City, looking for victims to kidnap, devour, and otherwise inconvenience far and wide. The Wee heroes would then step in and put a stop to their shenanigans, hopefully before the body count was terribly high. Their favorite targets were the Wee Idols, the fairest little ladies in Wee All City. Their pretty faces and melodious voices were used to sell everything from movie tickets to athlete's foot medication. From time to time, though, tradition is broken, and a Wee Oni will have little interest in causing trouble in the city, preferring to be left alone. One such Oni was Batterup, a tall, red-skinned Oni who wielded a nail-studded baseball bat. He was more or less satisfied with spending his time tossing small stones in the air and swinging his weapon of choice at them, sending them sailing mostly harmlessly into the nearby woods. To date, he's only knocked over about 6 trees through this activity in the past 10 years. Sure, he dabbled in kidnapping in his youth, but the risk of having one's bones broken by a swarm of Wee heroes was not worth the hassle of entertaining a pretty face who didn't like you anyway. One day, though, he found himself growing bored with his usual batting practice and picked up his massive sports bag early. When he slung it over his shoulder, it felt heavier than he thought it should be. He shook it slightly and felt something moving inside. "Must be another family of raccoons," he concluded. "Oh well, their dinner tonight." Sure, it might have been a good idea to check, but then they might escape, and there'd go dinner. He carried his bag into the woods to the abandoned sporting goods store he called home. The windows were caked with dirt, and the interior hung thick with the smell of bubble gum and beef jerky. He dropped his bag next to a tall stack of barbells when he heard an oof come from it. The sound caused him to pause. "No, please be raccoons," Batterup muttered. "Please don't be what I think it is. Why didn't I check? What possible excuse did I have not to check?" He unzipped the bag and threw it open, and inside was not a family of raccoons, but a single Wee Idol, one dressed in bananas and large palm leaves, beaming at the Oni. "What did you think it was?" she asked, swishing a monkey-like tail behind her. Batterup staggered back from her. "Nanner, what are you doing here?" "I miss you, Batter," she told him, crawling out of his gym bag. "Also, you might want to invest in some odor spray for that thing. It smells like a locker room." "Look, I kidnapped you one time. It's over between us." "Stockholm Syndrome," Nana replied. "We played board games for literally 20 minutes before you were rescued," he roared. Nana brought the back of her hand to her forehead. "Yes, and every minute of it is branded into my poor little mind." "Get out of here before someone calls the Wee heroes on me." He pointed to the door and waited. "Before I do anything, I have a question," she asked. "Do you wish you could kidnap me again?" The Oni stammered a moment before finding the words he was looking for. "That's completely irrelevant. Go home." "Okay." The yellow idol sat down cross-legged on the floor. "Done." "I'm going to pick you up and throw you out if you don't get out of here." "Is that a promise?" Batterup gritted his teeth, then stomped up to Nanner. "You asked for it." When he attempted to grab her, though, the idol sprang onto his head, using his 2 horns as handles to keep her balance. "What? You want to catch me? You'll have to try a little harder than that." "I hate you." 4 hours. He spent 4 hours running around the abandoned sporting goods store trying to catch this little woman. By the time he finally managed to wrap his fingers around her dainty little ankle, they were both sweaty heaps gasping for breath in spite of their respective athletic physiques. "There," he gasped. "I got you. Now get out of my freaking house." "That was so much fun," she sighed. "Was it good for you too?" "Don't make this weird." Batterup staggered to his feet and lifted Nanner by her ankle. "Now, I'm gonna put you outside, and you're going to go home." "But I can't go back home," she said, ignoring the blood rushing to her head. "I don't know where you live, and I'll just get lost in the woods." Batterup's eye twitched. "You're a horribly manipulative conniver, you know that?" "Only because I know you like me," said Nanner. "You keep trying to say no to me even though you want me. Why don't you keep me around?" Because no one will understand. They'll see a big scary monster hanging out with a cute girl and think I'm using you as my personal housemaid.
They'll send the wee heroes here to give me a concussion and high-five each other when they're done. What's worse, I'd have to protect you from other Oni, too. We're not exactly a big, happy family.
Oh, baby, you don't have to worry about that, said Nanner. I can take care of myself, and I'll make sure everyone knows that I want to be here. Also, could you put me down? The room's starting to turn red. Batter-Up grumbled, then flipped her right side up and slung her over his shoulder.
Promise all you like, but I'm not letting you throw away your fruit commercial career for me.
Nanner pouted. So you think we'll be happier if we're both miserable? He carried her outside and dropped her on the ground.
Now go home,
he said, slamming the glass door as best he could. There. He'd done it. She was no longer his problem. If someone found her dead body out in the scary woods one day, it was not his concern. So what if some other Oni came along and kidnapped her? She'd probably live for a while if he found her entertaining, and then would probably be devoured painlessly. What did any of that matter to him now? He wouldn't be culpable for anything. It wasn't his fault that she snuck into his bag and let him take her into a place in the woods she knew nothing about and had no realistic possibility of surviving the night. If he found her half-eaten corpse at his doorstep the next morning, it wouldn't affect his day in the slightest. Yes, it would, actually. So he opened the door and yanked the wee idol back inside with him. Once she realized where she was, she quickly wiped her face. Wait, you changed your mind?
I'm taking you back in the morning, he told her. Maybe if I move in broad daylight, they'll let me off with only a couple broken ribs.
Yay! Nanner jumped onto Batter-Up and clung to his neck. We're gonna have so much fun, just like old times.
Again, it was 20 minutes, Batter-Up corrected her.
Nanner raised an eyebrow. And? Batter-Up was suddenly very grateful that no one could see him blush through his bright red skin.
Well, that and those times we watched your mom's performances together as kids.
And?
And that trip to Whiplash Land.
And?
And that time at Love Interest Camp. What's your freaking point?
Nanner giggled and wrapped one of Batter-Up's arms around her to support her weight. No point at all. You got any good snuggling couches around here?
Oh, sure. Make yourself right at home.
Morning broke, and, as always, Batter-Up rose bright and early to start his morning workout. Normally, this would involve a number of laps around the building and a healthy breakfast of anything too slow or stupid to escape from him. Today, though, he had a different mission, and scooped up Nanner over his shoulder without waiting for her to properly wake up on her own. In fact, he was nearly in town by the time she began to stir. She moaned upon blinking awake. You taking me somewhere more private?
I'm taking you back to the city, Batter-Up explained.
What? But we haven't had morning coffee yet.
I don't drink the stuff.
But I still have to make you an omelet or something.
I don't own a stove.
Good idea. We should pick one up.
Shut up, Nanner. We are not married.
Is that a proposal?
It is not!
He yanked the woman off his shoulder and held her out in front of himself like she was an infant he didn't want to claim.
Get it through your thick skull. We are not a thing. Get me?
She gave him a wry smirk. So, what about when you stroked my hair last night when you thought I was asleep?
That was,
And when you held my hand during the baseball game we watched last night?
You initiated that!
And I suppose I was the one who wrapped your arm around my shoulder, too. Batter-Up made 3 distinct attempts at shouting something at her. Each time, however, only impotent squeaks and a long grumble came out when he realized that Nanner had won this match. You love me, Batter-Up, said Nanner. Admit it and kidnap me again, you know you want to. He snorted at her, then slung her back over his shoulder and resumed his trek into town. So you're really doing this? You're putting me back?
I'm sorry, Nanner, said Batter-Up.
The next sound Nanner made was a soft sniffle. You're a quitter, she told him. You act tough, but whenever anything is remotely difficult for you, you just flake off and play with your balls.
Nanner, please.
No, put me down. I hate you. I never want to see you again. She began beating on his back with her fist.
Nanner, please keep your voice down.
Not so fast, Buster, came a voice from over their heads. They both froze and realized that they had just reached the city limits. Batter-Up spotted multiple color-coded heroes standing atop a nearby 3-story building. They all leapt gracefully off the building and landed in a perfectly choreographed series of poses, cutting off the Oni's path out of town. There was a man in red, a woman in black, and 3 other young men dressed in blue, orange, and green respectively. Batter Up had heard of this specific team and knew they were the most brutal law enforcers in town.
"Release the girl and back away slowly," said the man in red, his eyes glowing like fire. "Officer, wait! There's been a misunderstanding," Batter Up protested, trying to sound innocent. "Stop your resisting!"
The hero in red fired off a pair of searing lasers from his eyes that struck Batter Up on the chest, coming dangerously close to Nanner's legs. "Hey, watch where you're shooting!" she cried. The other heroes rushed him from all sides, the young man in orange swinging a hammer made of building blocks at his face, the woman in black having converted her hands into giant vice grips that she swung at his knees. The Oni did everything he could to constantly move Nanner out of the way of their beatings, each time resulting in taking the hits himself. After juggling the idol between whichever hand wasn't currently being twisted out of its socket or getting stomped on for almost half a minute straight, the beatdown finished, and there wasn't a mark on Nanner herself. That's when the hero in red approached her.
"No need to worry, miss," he said, tipping his 3-pointed hat to her. "You're safe now."
She looked at Batter Up, now covered in burns and bruises, his limbs twisted in odd positions. She then glared at the hero in red, venom in her eyes. "My hero," she growled. The sun had set, and his damp concrete cell was not the worst place Batter Up had stayed. We Oni had their own standards for what constituted comfortable, and the other we folks' lack of understanding of this sometimes resulted in we Oni intentionally letting themselves get arrested for something. Batter Up, meanwhile, hated every moment of his incarceration. They had confiscated his nail-studded bat, didn't give him so much as a rubber ball to pass the time with, and just left him to recuperate from a beating he was pretty sure he didn't deserve. What was worse, he heard the guard whistling on our way over to his cell.
"Could you knock off the whistling?" he grunted. "I'm not in the mood to remember that other people are happy right now."
The guard was actually an older woman, a wee hero dressed in brown and wearing an apron. "Oh, don't be like that," she told him. "I was just coming by to let you know that someone's posted your bail."
"Bail?"
Batter Up propped himself upright on the plank they called a bed.
"You mean I could actually leave?"
The old hero unlocked his door. "That's right, dear." Another voice rang out from a nearby cell. "No way! He gets to go free while the rest of us rot in here!" The old woman put her foot down. "Quit your complaining or I'll stop sneaking you brownies in the cafeteria." There was no more complaining. She pulled Batter Up's door open. "Just follow me, sonny." He did, and soon found himself back in the front of the wee hero station, where he met a wee idol in yellow staring up at him with wide eyes. In her arms she cradled his nail-studded baseball bat, which was as long as she was tall. "Hi there," she said. "I hope you don't mind seeing me again after what happened." Batter Up made the pained cringe of "I want to hug it, but I won't," and instead took his bat from her and patted her on the head.
"Well, no harm done."
"They clobbered you and threw you in jail."
"Oh, did they? I hadn't noticed."
He stepped past her and made her way out the door. Nanner followed him with eager steps. "Wait, don't go yet." Once outside, Batter Up trudged past an unmarked van parked in front of the station. "I said wait!" Nanner shouted. Batter Up paused and turned back.
"What do you
There she stood, pointing a rather intimidating ray pistol at him.
"Where the heck did you get that?"
"Don't ask questions," she ordered. "I understand that you don't want to kidnap me anymore, so I'm going with the next best thing." She patted the van. "I'm going to kidnap you instead." Batter Up stared at the little woman in silence before a weak smile came over him.
I love you, Nanner."
Nanner's lip quivered, and she brushed away the tears in her eyes before they could throw off her aim. "I love you too, Batter Up. Now get in the van." Batter stepped inside, and that was the last anyone heard from him to this day. Except for that one time he went out for donuts, but that doesn't count. Thank you all very much for listening. To hear more stories like this, stay tuned to this YouTube channel. And now, time for the Patreon shout. Thanks a lot to Bashful Ivory, Joyful Cryptid, Megan Cloud, and Sonic Destroyer 12. If you want to support my work as well, check out the Patreon link in the description below.